Josh Neighbors, Jack Allen here. It is the College Countdown, J Squared edition on a Wednesday, October 15th, 2025. I am Josh Neighbors. He is Jack Allen. On today's show, hey, what's got you fired up? I did 30 minutes on James Franklin. I didn't talk about a single game from the weekend, Jack. I did 30 minutes about James Franklin, really about the patience conversation. And we'll talk about a coach today, Billy Napier, who I think has gotten plenty of patience, but the kind of the two sides of the patience spectrum. So I'd love to know where you fall on that. Also, let us know where you fall on everything we discuss. You can find us on Twitter. I am at Josh Neighbors _. He is at Jack Allen TV. The show is at CC Podcast JN. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 500, which I build channels over a couple thousands. I mean, it's a grind. It's those first few steps. So help us make those steps, and then. If you guys can't watch the show, find it wherever you all get your podcast. So, Jack, craziness. It's October. I thought about this week maybe doing some midseason awards, but not everybody has played 6 games, so we kind of need to give it one more week. I feel like we're mid-October, but you kind of want to do like late October-ish. I feel like is the right time to do it. So this week there's just a whole lot flying around with the James Franklin situation. It's funny because there have been talks today. Yahoo Sports, I think, was chief among them. It said Billy Napier. It could be done either way this weekend, which I thought either way is funny because it's like if you had that much conviction either way, wouldn't you have done it by now?
And, why not fire him before the game if you're going to fire him anyway?
Right, Ugh. Right. That just makes no sense. It's like fire him when he runs out of the tunnel. It's like, yeah. But it's funny because we've had both sides of the spectrum. And, whatever the James Franklin situation wasn't, Billy Napier's was like, I'm not sure I'm going to say he got too much time. But, I mean, they gave him every single opportunity. And, man, I don't know what it is, but, like, I don't know if it's first time SEC thing because it worked out for Kirby, but he'd been there before. But, like, there's none of this amazing track record of people getting to the SEC and immediately just skyrocket, just success all the time. And I don't think Billy Napier's a bad coach. Like, they've gotten really good talent. It's just not been simultaneous. And also, we've seen Florida, Dan Mullen's teams have a really good side of the ball, right? I mean, that offense was awesome. Their defense was just terrible. That Kyle Trask team. And they couldn't even get that mix, right? Where they had one awesome side of the ball. Now, the defense this year, you could say, they give up 31 points in 2 combined games between the Florida's, or whichever was the USF game. And then I forget whichever one it was before that. Or after that, whatever it was, but like 2 losses, 31 points. But like, what do you think about juxtaposing those two? Because I think it is an interesting thing where it feels like they are the opposite side of the patient spectrum.
I think so. I think part of the idea is that you get a longer runway in the SEC just because there's so many programs that it's easy to defend losing to. I think that's one thing that happens in the SEC a lot is that fan bases are like, okay, well, you lost to Georgia. It's Georgia. You lost to Alabama. It's Alabama. You lost to LSU. It's LSU. There are so many programs that you can justify losing to in the long run. And I think that allows for coaches to have a little bit of a longer runway because you ask yourself, okay, well, what realistically is the expectation? And you look at Florida's schedule. Like, I mean, Billy Napier's not been done any favors.
It's all killer, no filler.
and not just by the SEC, but in the non-conference. When you play Miami in the non-conference, when you play Florida State in the non-conference, like there are not easy wins caked into the schedule. And so the thing about him is he's been a survivor. And so it's almost like you have to do it now because if you give him a few more weeks, I wouldn't be surprised if he dug himself out of the hole just like he did last year. And like, that's the thing is that he's survived and won the games when he had to. You think back to that Ole Miss game last year, whenever they made Jackson Dart look like an amateur quarterback out there. And single-handedly, I think tanked his draft stock a little bit just by the way that they went out and smothered them defensively. And you think back and you're like, all right, Billy Napier found a way to save his job, found his way to fight to live another day. And so it's almost like, you got to kill him while he's down.
He's like too good of a coach. He's like too good of a coach to suck. And I think the problem with them is they don't have a quarterback. A quarterback for them, I believe he had Richardson, right? I think he had Anthony Richardson. Mm-hmm. And then they had Mertz. And Mertz was fine, but like ultimately they wanted to give Yes, right. Injured. They ultimately wanted to give the keys to Lagway anyway. And DJ, I mean, he's super talented, but almost kind of a Richardson situation where it's like it's just not there yet. You know, and the thing is
It's
that
there in
with some of these,
flashes, but
right. Well, like some of these super talented guys, like think about it, if you're a less talented player and like you know what you have to do, like it if you can learn how to achieve those things, it's easier. Like I'll just give I'll give a Missouri example. Brady Cook. Like Brady Cook cannot do the things that DJ Lagway can do, so they will not ask him to do the things that DJ Lagway would do. They really just asked him to become a better vertical passer, and he did, and it really opened up things for his legs and everybody else's legs, and like that. That's a different assignment than becoming good the way DJ Lagway is, because they expect DJ Lagway to be much like Arch Manning, an all around. Even guys like Grant Nussmeier or Garrett Nussmeier, like you don't expect, you're an LSU guy, you don't expect Nussmeier to be a player like an Arch or a Lagway is, or even an Avery Johnson at Kansas State is, just because that's he's a bit more one dimensional. They've had multi-dimensional guys. Even they did with Mertz, those guys never quite hit their ceiling or built towards it in a linear way, I feel like. And much like the success of the team, they never really built towards anything in a linear way.
Well, and it's when you rely on one player to be the crux of everything, then when that doesn't pan out, it doesn't go well for you as a program. That's one thing, when you talk about like Missouri with Brady Cook, it's like if Brady Cook does not have his best game, you have other options and you have other things to rely on. And it feels like so much has been leaning on Anthony Richardson. So much has been leaning on DJ Lagway, to where if they don't perform to their top notch, then the team is going to not perform to its best level, because so much runs through them, whether it's through the ground game, through the air, and then setting up the defense for success. Like when you throw 5 interceptions against LSU and you put the defense in bad positions, like that's not complimentary football. And that's just something we haven't really necessarily seen a ton of from Florida, is that complimentary football, or even, like you said, having one side that's dominant enough to kind of help pull the other one along.
So how do we feel about Auburn? Because we talked about, hey, they might suck before the year, and their defense is good. And like we thought their defense would be good. The Auburn defenses are always good. It doesn't seem to matter who the coach is. They have done, and that school for a long time has done a very good job of identifying talent. I mean, they're like, I think in the last 15 years they've had a good front and a good running back. Really, running back not quite there where it normally is this year. Not no Tank Bigsby back there, but the quarterback thing for a guy who's ostensibly an offensive coach has been a total nightmare. And I thought this was a weird choice anyway. And I mean, okay, they got screwed the other night. But the unfortunate thing is Georgia is the team that will always just pound you for making mistakes. I mean, they are like, that is Georgia football, right? Like, it doesn't always look the sexiest. Maybe a couple tight ends, a little Stetson Bennett action, but like, you screw up and they will crush you for it. They did. I just think you have a situation where it's like, I want to clean house, because like the Hugh Freeze thing has not gone great. Not saying, if they did it over again, it wouldn't. I don't think he's a terrible coach, but he's clearly not the coach that he was before. And because this was the build year, and then their athletic director is screaming at people on the field. Like, they need to take a step back. And I think it's a good time now, because you just put Stephen Pearl in place of Bruce. There's no big decision coming on that horizon. And you can kind of just reassess at Auburn as everything kind of shifts about how we're going to do this thing. Because it is clearly not working. And like, it's funny. I mean, out of one side of my mouth, I'll say, hey, somebody has to lose the games. But like, Auburn is not, they're very gettable, because no matter how good their defense is, their offense is just so bad and so limited. It's so limited despite the fact they got some good receivers. And it's just like, how did this happen with Hugh Freeze? How did that happen multiple seasons with Hugh Freeze? And how the hell did you let Gus Malzahn go?
Well, that's the thing, is that it's almost like the warning that I want to throw at Penn State is like, hey, you may not like to be in this echelon where you're close to the top but not quite there, and you think if we just change the guy, everything's going to go great and we're going to be able to get over the hump. But it's a lot easier for you to go from a 9-win team consistently and having those fun moments against Alabama to being a bottom tier SEC team. The differential between that is so thin as well. And I think it's almost like this warning that I wish that Penn State could look at and listen to and be like, hey, don't take for granted where you're at, because it can all go away very quickly. And you think that if there was a side of the ball that Auburn at this stage would be in control of, it would be the offense. It would be Hugh Freeze, this offensive mastermind who can take out Nick Saban. But like you said, it just hasn't panned out. And it hasn't panned out. Like, when was the last time we said that Auburn had a really dynamic offense? It feels like forever.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, Gus's offense were dynamic. It was like sometimes, it's like too dynamic. Let's get the fullback out of the backfield.
Let's simplify things a little bit.
Yeah. Hey, let's do Penn State. So I've started thinking about people moving forward, because like there's no clear answer. I mean, there might be a clear answer about who they have lined up, but the idea of, hey, like there is a tier above James Franklin. Like there might be Urban Meyers, out, but like not available. There's not, what I'm saying? There's not a clear tier available. And for in terms of replacement, like the one guy I think where it's like, if he went there and it's like, oh, this is what it looks like at a really good school, Matt Campbell, just because like there really isn't much of a bugaboo for Matt Campbell. Like he got rid of the Iowa thing, and he's a lunatic sometimes. I mean, he will lose his mind, so kind of very much in the vein of James Franklin, but every coach is now losing their mind. I feel like it's like, oh, we put Matt Campbell at Penn State. It's like, oh, okay. Why didn't somebody do this earlier? Because like the thing is that Iowa State is not a great program. And I think the most impressive thing that Matt Campbell has done was the fact that they had Hunter Deckers like come back, and then they had the betting scandal. They had to replace a bunch of guys. But 5-star culture stipulates no matter what happens, we step up, we play. And here comes Rocco Beck, the little Italian boy. And I mean, they've been fantastic. And like that team clearly believes in him. He is a good player in money time. And look, Iowa State is a well-built team, but they're not built to absorb losing 2 corners and a punter and a kicker. That's just, I'm sorry. Like these, like if 2022 TCU or 21 over TCU lost Quentin Johnston, it was not going to go well. Or at least not the way they needed it to go. You could say about a variety of guys, but like they've got good players all over the place, but they're not good enough to lose a bunch of them in a row. So I'm not blaming this, like a punter and a kicker is ridiculous. They'll lose both those guys. And to me though, it's just like that. He is a constant winner. And they were in the Big 12 championship game last year, right? And they almost beat Oklahoma last time they were in it. And that's like, every single time I think, hey, the fans at Iowa State might get, like, is going to be any grumbling at any point, just because like he's almost spoiled them to a certain extent. There's not. I just think that's it. Because I really don't want it to be Matt Rule. I like Matt Rule. I don't want it to be Matt Rule.
It also doesn't make sense to fire the guy who can't beat top 10 teams to hire the guy that can't beat top 25.
The guy who's never beat a top 10 team.
That's right. Like if Matt Rule just
who's your guy?
like another version. Well, so I do want to talk a little bit about Matt Campbell, because I think it's a very interesting, idea and something that I think could work and could be the guy, like for all the reasons that you talked about. The fear that I have is that sometimes you have coaches who are more like a Dan Mullen, who had a lot of success at Mississippi State in terms of Mississippi State success. They can take an average team, they can take a team that's built on 3 stars and get them to play up to 4-star level. There's a difference between being able to take a mid team and get them to outplay their expectations and to compete at a different level than it is to take 5-star talent and have them compete well against other 5-star talent. And that's kind of the challenge at Penn State, is how do you take your talent advantage that you have and use it to compete against other top 5 talent. And we haven't seen James Franklin. Like James Franklin was another example of it, where, he did really well at taking a middle of the road Vanderbilt team, not even middle of the road Vanderbilt team, and making them competitive in the SEC, and then moved up to Penn State. And then it took a little while for him to get to this plateau, or whatever. But I mean, and so, it's always risky to say, oh, I feel like we do this a lot, where we say, and we do it with with like G5 coaches a lot, where we say, oh, well, he's doing that at Tulane,
Right.
Just imagine what he could do if he had the horses that he can bring in elsewhere. Sometimes those guys can't recruit. Like that's something that we saw with Mullen, was that he didn't have the legs to be able to recruit.
He didn't like it
at
at
Florida
all.
and didn't like to do that.
That'll make it go sideways very quickly.
And so the assumption that just because it's Florida, he's going to have all those guys didn't necessarily translate. And then there's also the idea that sometimes, if you have this blue collar workman's mentality, it works with your 3-star guys that come up, but sometimes it doesn't work with the other group that you have when you have guys who have come in and have always been the most talented guy on every team they've played on. And so, yeah, I like Matt Campbell. I wouldn't be surprised if it works, if they were to go that route, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it didn't. And that's why there's the big risk of it all.
Well, that's what's the whole point, is like every single guy, there's pros and cons.
Yeah.
Right. Like Kirby Smart, the case is like, it might not go well, but like he's a Saban guy. And, especially now, like the Saban guys are kicking ass. Like, those guys are ass kicking. I mean, just like, let's see. I mean, I'm trying to think of the ones that haven't really worked. I mean,
Jones is 3.
But between Kirby, Sark, and Lane, Dan Lanning too.
Cignetti went through the Alabama system.
Exactly. But I think the thing about it is that all of those guys are different personalities, which is the funny part. Which is like, that's the Belichick part of. I think the one part Saban really understood was like you can have personalities and stuff. That's fine. That's actually good. But like you need to be yourself a little bit. And I think he saw himself becoming old and he's so self-aware. Like in a way Belichick is not.
Yeah.
I think Nick Saban's very, very much aware. So I want to hear who your person is for Penn State. But first, a word from our sponsors. So it's a cliffhanger.
Your season, your shot. The NFL season is rolling, and every touchdown can bring you closer to a payout with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. From first touchdown scorer to anytime TD props or the thrill of live in-game betting, every snap is loaded with opportunity. New customers, this one is for you. Bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, score over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code NEIGHBORS. That's code NEIGHBORS to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first $5 bet. Plus over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Okay, so Jack, who would be number one for you? I want to hear multiple options. If you had to make the choice today,
I think you back up the Brinks truck for Cignetti. You do whatever you can. I don't think that he's going to leave. I think that he has a lot of things tying him to Indiana. I think Mark Cuban is trying to make sure.
I think he thinks he's Penn State now.
Yeah, I think that he thinks he's Penn State. And so but you go and you find everything in the mountain streets of State College, every dime, every bag of money hidden in a tree somewhere, and you throw it at him. And if he doesn't work, it's going to be boring. I don't think Matt Rule would be a bad move. And I know the cons against him of it's the same problems with James Franklin. But I will say this. One thing that Matt Rule is very good at is building culture, and he's really good at being a salesman. And a part of what I think Penn State needs at this point is a vibes shift and a boost of energy. Like they just need a reset. I don't think they really need to change that much. Like they were in the semifinals last year. They have talent. They have everything is the foundation is there. They have assistants there that we both really like.
I love both their coordinators. I absolutely love those two guys will be looking for jobs next year, apparently.
There's a lot that you could do to keep I think that Matt Rule would almost keep the ship moving. With new life and new leadership.
He might keep those coordinators. Those are the types of guys you want to hire.
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for him to, if he gets hired, to keep those guys. And so I think that, if there's one thing that Matt Rule can do, and it's one thing that we saw at Temple, it's the thing we saw at Baylor, it's the thing we saw at Nebraska. He looked at these places that, had some sort of history and tapped into that. He's going to be able to do that tenfold at Penn State, a place that he is very familiar with. and can hit the right notes to get people excited again. And I think that as much as anything, Penn State is a vibes issue right now. And that's something that Matt Rule can really help with.
I just hate the idea that Pat Kraft did this to hire his buddy, which I mean, like his buddy might be a good enough coach, but like I hate that.
Again, I don't necessarily like it. I'm just saying it could work.
But what's clear is that somebody's lying to us because every single coach at this point has said something that would make moving to Penn State somewhat dubious. Which I
would just like to make it be known that I am comfortable at KATV and I will not be taking the Penn State job. So I know I'm wearing blue and white. I'm wearing a blue and white jacket. Don't read into that too much.
Hey, I'll tell you what, that's a good job. And we talked about it last week, and I looked at the numbers. The last time that they won 10 plus games. 6 times in a 9-year stretch, which is the 10-year Franklin had, they won 2 national championships in that stretch. And but Jack, I'll go back to this. Like the weird part to me is always going to be this. Whenever I think back to this firing, I told a story the other day, but like when I was driving back from a wedding in Hot Springs, Arkansas, it's about an hour south, for those of you who don't know, from Little Rock. And I was calling my girlfriend Alice on the way home. And she was breaking down giving the play-by-play of what was happening in the Oregon Penn State game. And it was weird to think 15 days later, like they are in overtime 1 play away from winning this game and being like, not only did we go to the playoff last year and with one throwaway, one bad, that's once again, that game's not on Franklin. That one's on Aller. I'll put that one out squarely on Aller. I don't mind blaming the player on that one. But like they're there. They're almost in the title game. They're 1 play away from Oregon, beating Oregon. And then, 15 days later, it's like, we got to make a change. And I think it's weird. I made this point. I want to know what you think about this kind of in closing here. But the idea that the sport's going one way where it's like, there's actually more opportunity, maybe in the big picture, less teams have opportunities, but there are more opportunities for the teams that are serious about football, that are committing resource to football because of a 12-team playoff. Like we mentioned, the SEC being the NFL basically. Like you can make mistakes and still get to where you want to go. The sport's now more forgiving than it was before because the talent is more spread out. There's more opportunity to get that talent because of NIL and because the way the rosters are now being shaped. And people are almost acting more rational. That's why I appreciate Florida for like really letting Billy play out the string. Like this weekend was standing, obviously, but like they're really letting him play out the string, for the most part. So I think there's more incentive to be patient. Like Arkansas, I said, there's a difference between what Arkansas was doing with Pittman, where it's like the loss, it's like Mike McCoy in San Diego, and just inventing ways to lose. Like just like Chargers punters were doing things that you're just totally incongruous, and that would cost them games. That's how it felt like with Arkansas and Sam Pittman. So it was time for a change. Like Penn State is having a run of success uncommon. Maybe it was time for a change. Maybe he is Mark Richt, but man, that is a tough choice to make. And especially Georgia made that choice when the thing was becoming more. It was still pretty selective. Now I will say on the other side of this too. A&M. I meant to mention this earlier, but A&M did this and went with the boring hire. I love Mike Elko, and like it's kind of my guy. Great quotes, Jack. Rent is due every week. Love that. Love it. We're paying rent every week, buddy. You and I feel that every day. So, what do you think about the idea where it's like the sport's becoming, the fans are less patient. The apparatus at these schools are less patient. The sport itself structurally is more patient now.
Well, I think one thing and this is something I've been thinking about all week, is that I think Curt Cignetti broke a little bit of fans' minds and broke college football a little bit by taking a team like Indiana to the playoff, because it confirmed all of fans' irrational beliefs everywhere across the sport that my team can be the next one to do that. And that's why we love the sport so much, is that anyone on any given Saturday can do it. And we say that, we don't really believe it, and we don't really get to experience that very often. But now we have a case study where we can point to it and say, hey, Curt Cignetti did it at Indiana of all places.
But isn't what he's selling that we can do it back-to-back years? Because that's the one, because like I feel like more often it's Mel Tucker, Michigan State, one year to the next. Like what Curt Cignetti has done has been like any given Saturday times 2.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is that it's the extension of that beyond just we can beat anybody any given Saturday. It's that our program can become one of those programs. And I think, everyone sits there, your Mississippi State, your Arkansas, your, Washington, your Arizona State, and everybody sits around and believes, okay, we can be that. And if we're not that right now, we need to change something so that we can be that. It's not this like unattainable, you've gotten a taste of it and you're like, why can't it be us? And I think that's made the clock, like this idea of the playoff. Yes, it's more attainable. There are smaller goals that you can achieve, but when you don't reach those goals and you see other schools achieve those goals that are closer to your level, you're like, okay, hang on. We need it. Like Ole Miss is doing this. The same Ole Miss that hasn't won an SEC title.
I was going to say this. I was about to say this. Texas Tech and Ole Miss, like Texas Tech. What Texas Tech is doing right now, Jack, is the fastest way from point A to point B is a straight line. And they're like, it's just, hey, guess what? And every single week when I see the PFF pressure, it's like I see the PFF pressure rate. Guess what? Two defensive ends they bought, and to your point, guess who the best defensive line in football last year, and guess who bought them, and that's like no matter what it is, no matter what you about the coaches, it's always about the Jimmies and the Joes, but like the way that plays out is like when Arkansas is like, it looked like their offensive lineman playing a different sport was just like they're just getting like overrun. It was like the Army of the Dead in Game of Thrones, in Winter. I mean, it's just like one-way traffic, and like they bought their way there, but they bought their way there too to also prove to their coach how serious they were about football, so he wouldn't go somewhere else. And like that's the thing too is like, you have to make a choice. Your program has to make a choice about how serious you want to be. And the thing about Penn State, it's interesting. We already know they're serious. Like they had arguably the best roster in the sport. And look, they missed on their portal wide receivers. Those guys aren't good. This kind of just right back to where they are last year. And Drew Aller didn't get any better. But like, it's the funny thing about them is that they're not like asking the question of Penn State fans. This is where you should take some happiness, is that they're not asking the question, how can we get more serious? They're asking, is there something else we can do to finally reach that top rung? And that's a totally different question than like what half the teams are asking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's the Penn State scenario feels different than all of these other ones, where these other ones are like, hey, we're looking at everybody else who's making these kind of surprising runs and competing, and we want to be there. And we think that it's kind of this pride that exists within a fan base and exists within, athletic departments, this pride that like, hey, we should be just as good as these guys down the street. Even if we're not, even if we don't have the same funding as them, even if, we have no history that competes with them, because they're our peers, we should be at their level. And it feeds into this idea that if we're not, we need to do something to shake it up. And so coaches are bearing the brunt of that.
Brian Kelly, 5-1 hot seat. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
He's lost one game.
Also, I will say there's a part of me that watched the game. It's like, how the hell is there no running game? We've talked about this. You had to like, it's like, that's the funny part is when these teams have these glaring flaws and they do stuff to address it and it just doesn't get fixed. But on the other side of that, you have like the way Mansour Delane's playing at corner. And it's like, that's supposed to look like, right?
That's where the money went.
The juxtaposition, right. All right, Jack, where can people find you and your work and all of its variety?
Jack Allen TV on Twitter, also katv.com. Lots of good Arkansas high school, college sports action. We talked a little bit about Ace State football, a big win over South Alabama.
Didn't lead until the very end.
Buzzer. Jalen Rayner only good when there's less than 2 minutes on the clock. But he's good when there is. So second straight win for them, coming off of a missed kick of less than 30 yards.
If you aren't watching midweek Sunbelt and CUSA action,
you're missing out.
What are you doing with your time? Yeah, I'll tell you what. The double box last night with CUSA
that missed field goal from New Mexico State.
Also, U.S. soccer.
That would have been a great corner kick. Hey,
the about eclectic quad boxes last night. I had U.S. soccer. I had college football. I had the baseball
postseason.
As well. Yes, and then 2 football games. So yeah,
what a time to be alive. We love October. That's what we live for.
All right, Jack, you can get out of here, but we have one more word from our sponsors before we do.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 8887-897777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Fees may apply in Illinois, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday ticket/terms. Limited time offer.